Go ahead. Let's just start up. This is the first one of many series coming up. This one's on audio. So, all right. So this is the first little podcast I want to do. This is Alex Kariotis, and Burjan Bergenstein.
Burjan, thank you so much for coming and making the trip all the way from here.
Yeah, very well, very well.
And me, Daniel Formica, and we're gonna do a little podcast and just a short one.
Just tell everybody where we are.
We are in Anaheim, California,
for your show.
For weekend shows that I do Friday and Saturday in Fullerton at the Roscoe's Deli. Come out to the deli and see the band. So embarrassing. Yeah. But no,
it's not a deli.
No.
It's a nice club.
And Alex came in Alex teaches in Texas.
Yeah, El Paso. I'm a professor at the University of Texas right now. Okay. Besides having my Skype lessons and flying back and forth to New York and New Jersey. Basically, I live in airports now. I teach in airports.
So, all right. So we'll just get started. So, Alex, just tell everybody. Tell them no. So I'll start out with saying, tell everybody how you went from saying you tell me all the time you went from a tenor going to the solidity you have now in your voice that I haven't heard in any other vocalist. I never heard that solidity.
Look at this idea that there are quote unquote natural singers. There are there's people who have more talent than others naturally, but there are naturally better voices than others. But I was never. I grew up as a young rock singer. My brother was a rock singer, and he was my first teacher. And we would sit in his room, and we'd go through different people, like let's sing this. Today we're going to work on Journey tunes, and we'd sing, Steve Perry stuff, and he'd show me what I was doing. And I was naturally good at that. I had high notes. I had good rock high notes. Those came naturally. But then as I got older, he was the one who pushed me into checking out classical music and stuff, and when I saw Pavarotti sing, it was like that was the moment I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that, And deep inside me, somewhere, like we all have it, deep inside of us, we have like what we want our voice to sound like. We all have that feeling, oh, if I can make my voice, it's somewhere in there. I got to find that, and that was my quest, and that has been my quest my entire life, was to try to find that voice. And luckily,
to find that Pavarotti.
How to find, I was never going to be Pavarotti. His voice is amazing. It's a beautiful voice. I don't want to be the next Pavarotti. I didn't care so much about that. I wanted to be the greatest Alexander Kariotis I could be.
Right.
Technically, because if the technique isn't there, then you're living a life of hell, man.
Right, and your quest for that, this is going to right into my other questions. And in the quest for that, someone wants to learn to sing with that sound in mind, Pavarotti's sound in mind. How do you search that out? What did you do? You said, I'm going to
find. I first started out by, my very, very first teacher, classical teacher, was this woman by the name of Marietta Dean Weston. I went to Western Illinois University for a year. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I just kind of had to go to college. So I went there, and she was great. And after the first couple lessons, she said, what are you doing here? You should be singing. And I was like, I want to. I don't know what to do. And we spent that first year, that first semester, working on my aria so I could go to New York and study. I auditioned for all the big music schools, got into them, and the reason why I wanted to go to, I chose to go to Mannes was there was a soprano there who had sung with Luciano Pavarotti. So I thought, okay, this is kind of like, the Kevin Bacon thing. I'm one degree from Bacon. I thought maybe I'm 1 degree from Pavarotti and I can study with this woman. Unfortunately, she passed away the summer before school started. I didn't even know it, so I showed up at school ready for my lessons with this teacher. This is why I went to this school, and she had passed. And so I went and I sang. So they said, you're going to study with this tenor, Dan Merrick. I was like, I don't know. I was just like, uh-oh, I don't know what's going on. And I went to his studio, and I started singing, and he just was like, all right, we have 4 years to get this fixed. 4 years. I mean, I was told that was great. I thought I was ready to. He's like, no, dude, we got a lot of work to do. And he sang for me, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's legit. He had a different voice than Pavarotti's. He was still a lyric tenor, and he was able to do everything.
So the key word in there is your teacher sang for you.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Now, what's that thing?
This is the thing that drives me crazy.
What's that?
And that and I want to preface by saying I'm not knocking anybody else. That's not my deal. It's that I don't really understand studying with someone who can't show you how to do it. Do you know what I mean? That's how I grew up. I grew up that way as a little kid. I was in that bedroom with my brother. We had our Shure Vocal Master. Remember that thing? The Shure Vocal Master set up in the thing. Put on a Journey tune. We go through, loving, touching, squeezing. I'd sing it. He'd go, nope, like this. Loving, touching. I mean, loving, no, loving. Back and forth for hours. I mean, like hours. So much that my mom and dad would be like, choose another song. He doesn't have it. Move on. My brother's like, he'll get it. Shut up. And that's where I got that work ethic from.
And so, because in any other art form, what happens? What did you say last night? You said it perfectly. Singing is the only.
Singing, I've noticed that singing is the only art form, the only discipline where people will go to people that can't actually do it. And I don't understand it. I mean, if you want to learn how to play the violin, you don't go to a drummer. You go to a violinist because you play and they say, no, you hold the bow wrong. Here, and they move your hand to where the bow is. They show you, see how I'm doing? See my elbow? Your elbow's up in there. Get your elbow down. And it's that with every discipline. For some reason, I don't know why. I just don't know why. People study with people who can't sing.
Well, I just want to add, when you see people online, say on YouTube, singer teachers, and they're like hitting a scream or they're singing one phrase, it can be very deceiving because you go, oh, they looks like they can do it, or it's a pre-recorded song.
Nowadays with Melodyne and everything, you can tune anything. You can do anything.
And you see.
Believe me, I do a lot of producing and a lot of stuff, and I'm fixing people like.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you yesterday, we had a horn section that couldn't. We did a song. We had a horn section. These guys could not play in tune. My musical director's like, dude, we can't use these horns. Just give me a day, and I just tuned them all. And you can do anything.
Right. And then you also get people that use this outlandish terminology for head voice and vocal fry and twang and quack and you get all these terms and everyone's like, oh, maybe that's something I don't know about and I need to figure that out. And it's like, it gets real confusing real quick because there's so many terminologies for feelings that people have when they are sensations.
Now, getting back to that, so Dan Merrick sings for you. You hear all these things.
Dan Merrick sang for me, and I was like, "This is the real stuff." I mean, his voice took my head off in the room. It was clear. He's sitting there on the bench, like with his legs, literally like his legs crossed. No, come on. I'm like, oh, jeez. I'm like, oh, no, come on, baby, you did it. And he did it for 4 years. I mean, he just put me through the paces. And I would sit in. He was great. He's an awesome man. Great, great teacher. A real advocate for the students, I owe him really everything. When we talk about Paula, because of Pavarotti and all that stuff.
Because still your quest is to maybe study with Pavarotti if you can, right?
I was gonna stalk him down. I was gonna corner him and say, look, I'm gonna follow you around the world and study with you. And I actually did that the first time I met him at Carnegie Hall. He did a concert, a recital with John Wusman, his pianist coach. So John Wusman played for everybody. Gonzi, Nicolai, all the famous sopranos. He's like the guy. And at that time, he had a soprano, Susan Dunn, John Wusman did, who was really coming up through the ranks and singing at the Met. And this was something that he actually liked. Right. So I went backstage right after the concert. A friend of mine was actually working at the backstage door, and I gave him $20 and he let me in. John was kind of coming out of his dressing room, still like toweling off his head. He's like, whoa. And I said, and he saw it in my face. He's like, he said, Colin, take it easy. I was like, well, I just like vomited all this stuff. And he was giggling at me, And I said, I want to study with you. And he goes, I don't teach anybody. I'm going around the world. I said, perfect. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow you. And whenever you have a second, I'm going to sing for you to do it. He goes, no. This is not the way you study. I said, he goes, how are you going to fly all over the world? I said, I'll find someone. I'll sell whatever. I'll sell my body. I don't care. You know what I mean? And he's like, you're not going to get much money, believe me. It was great. It was funny. We had a nice little moment. I was like in awe. And he said, listen, study with John Wusman. He teaches. He knows everything that's going on. Study with Maestro Wusman. And I was like, all right. And so I ran. I was like, I tried again. He said, look, our conversation's over now, because then people started to get in line to get, he kind of said, okay, time for you to leave. It's like, okay. And so then I went to Wusman's room, and his dressing room, he was gone. And I was freaking out. I was crazy. And it was in the winter time, and Carnegie Hall, the backstage of Carnegie Hall is on a hill. And I jump outside, and I see him at the top of the hill walking out with Susan Dunn, this famous soprano. And he's walking, and I take off up the hill, and I'm in dress shoes, so I was wearing this suit. And I get to the top of the hill, and I slid and fell right into Bushman's arm. He caught me. And this sounds like a movie, but it's honestly got shoot. And looking up from his arms, I said, John, Mr. Wilson, I want to study with you. He goes, well, let's work on standing first, Joe. And we talked, and I said, I'll be in Chicago, because he was teaching at the University of Illinois, and I'm from Elmhurst, which is a couple hours away from there. I said, I'll be there all over Christmas break. I want to work with you. I talked to Luke John, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, great, here's my phone number. And back then, we didn't have cell phones and all that. I didn't have any paper on me. He goes, my phone number is I was like, I'll never remember it. He goes, you can't remember my phone number. Just forget about studying. I was like, he used to have joking, but he's like, come on, you can't remember 7 numbers and you want to study opera, And so I got the number, and I had to go all the way uptown, and I'm like, 2, 1, 2, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 7, 2. I just kept saying the number. I thought I would forget, which is so stupid because he's in the directory at the University of Illinois. I could have just called up, And that's when I was studying with Dan Merrick during that time, and that's when I first started to work with Wussman. And the entire time I was with him was like, what does Luciano do here? He sings the O here. He's, closed here. He's open here. The Italians talk about aperto and chiuso, which, in our language is upper register and mixed voice. And that was it. No, he doesn't do that here. No. And I would try it, and I couldn't get it. And I go back to Dan Merrick, and then he goes, yeah, it's just mixed voice. You're just too close. And so I had this, kind of real technician going on, real technique, real nuts and bolts with Dan Merrick. And then, this is what Luciano does. I come back, and Dan's like, yeah, it's this file. You know what I mean? I was kind of frustrating Dan. And that's just another testament to his, his greatness, is that here I was, this kid not being able to really sing, you know what I mean? And just going, well, Luciano does this. And Dad's like, yeah, it's this. And I would say, it doesn't sound like Luciano. They say, well, I'm not Luciano Pavarotti. Our voices are different. But that's the thing. And then I go, oh, yeah, because his voice was richer. And I could never, see, I heard somewhere in the recesses of my voice, the same tone quality. I'm not comparing myself to Pavarotti, but that same kind of tone quality. It was in the same family. Brighter, lighter-ish, not so. And when I would go to Dan, it was heavier. It was heavier, so it was very hard for me to relate to that tone. But it was the same, it was the same. So I don't know.
And then so now you study Wussman. Now, how did you end up getting to study with Pavarotti's teacher?
Arrigo Pola.
Arrigo Pola.
Hello, Maestro Pola. That's our fake Italian.
Arrigo Pola. So how did that come about?
That came about. There was a wonderful society in Chicago called Eklekton. It was a Greek arts society, and it was a group of wealthy Greek socialites, and they would help sponsor singers. They put on concerts for singers and pianists and art shows. They were just trying to, in Chicago, support young artists. They had some famous opera singers that they were working with also. Dimitri Kavrakos is a famous bass baritone, who was also a guy I worked with too for a while. It was really great. But I couldn't relate to that. This monster. I was like, dude, I don't even know what that sound is. Just, I was like,
It's just real
it was
heavy.
Yeah, it was huge, man. He's a big guy. The sound was giant. He was singing at the Met, and I was like, Anyhow, so this wonderful woman, Virginia Prodromos is her name. She became my sponsor. They don't have this anymore. That's the sad thing about that. So she sponsored me, which meant that she helped me financially to do stuff like fly back to Chicago and have lessons with Wussman, fly somewhere and do this, or I would give a recital, and then they would give me a few $1,000s, and then I could do stuff with that. You know what I mean? I wasn't buying clothes. It was to do specific stuff. And one of the first big things that they gave me money for was to go to this competition called the Enrico Caruso Voice Competition for Young Tenors. And it was in Milan, and it was at the Puccini Conservatory in Milan. And you go there, and it's just like 100 tenors. And that was just freaked me out. Because I was like a young dude with a young voice, and, I wasn't near ready to sing. And some of these dudes, they were like, you're 20 years old? You sound like a 60. What are you talking about, And I went there, and then what they did is they gave me money to go there and stay there and do the competition, and then gave me money to go from Milan down to Modena to study with Paula. And I got to the semifinals in the competition, and one of the dudes, a guy that I kind of became friends for some reason, which was like two little scared puppies there. We kind of saw each other like, okay, let's just like support this sweet Italian guy. I don't even remember his name. And it just so happened, I said, well, who you saw? He goes, I still have Maestro Paul. And I was like, oh. Yeah, well, I already had a lesson set up. It was all set up.
Okay.
They had, I think that Clecton talked to somebody. Somebody had like set it up for me, so I already had a time to go down there. I was going to go for a few lessons in 3 days, or 3 lessons, 3 days, something like that. And but I saw this kid, and I heard him sing, and I'm like, oh, geez, this kid sounds like a young Pavarotti. He had that extra, that je ne sais quoi, that little extra something that I just didn't have, And he was singing, and it just sounded the same. Yeah, that's what Wisp was talking about. That's what Merrick's talking about. I hear that vowel. I hear it's yep, it's closed there. Here it comes. Yep, it's open there. You know what I mean? It was like the road. He was doing the road. It was neat to see someone else doing it, and he made it to the finals. This kid.
Oh, cool.
He didn't win, but he was in the top 3. And so we got on. So we were just announced who the finalists were. I didn't make it, and he had a week, and so he was going back down to Modena. He's from Modena. So we got on the train together, and we went down there, and I saw his lesson. I first met Maestro Paula, and I sang for him, and I was just scared on him. I was a nervous wreck, man. It was something pretty awful.
And I compare. Now this gets into another question because I'm going to try to make this a shorter podcast.
Sorry, if you open up the door, I'm going to talk forever.
I'm going to start cutting you off because I can. I mean, come on.
Well, because I'm paying you.
Yeah. So, the difference. Let's talk about maybe the difference between Merrick. Now, Merrick did a lot of the stuff that Burton Coffin.
Those are the exercises.
Those are the exercises. Now, Pola, how would you consider the difference in the way Pola taught you more about say the word?
Appoggio.
Appoggio. I always want to know appoggio. Well, so that's where more when he's talking, you really got a sense of that from.
Well, here's the thing: is Pola really didn't talk about appoggio.
Oh, okay.
We never talked about this. Yeah. So I was working with Merrick, and we were doing this technique. It was when I got to Wussman that he took it to another level. He was the one who really showed me, look, Luciano was doing this, and it was much more specific and just a tiny bit different than Dan. It was much lower. The lean, the appoggiata was lower, and really found that what I call the epicenter of the breath, that spot we lean from, and he was the one who would be like behind me, picking me up off the ground, and no, lean, Alex, you're not leaning, man. That's why you're closing.
You from the spot, right?
Yeah, he would put his arms around me, and I'd be singing a high C in Bohème, and he would like lean on me. He goes, "Come on!" And he literally would pick me up off the ground because he was
want to push that in, so you push that out.
Yeah, so I have some resistance against that, and that C would pow, and pop, and like, oh my god, hold it on! He came down, I just started crying. He's like, there you go, man.
So what you're saying is the difference between what they said, it was pretty a physical act because you're leaning out and this guy's picking you up, you've got to lean against that spot. Yeah. It's a physical act as opposed to, as we search the net as young singers, and well, I'm an old guy now, but, younger guys search the net and they always hear, make sure everything is relaxed and your throat is open and don't tighten anything here or there.
That's fine. Right. Don't tighten is fine. Don't squeeze your throat. Those are all fine, but
it's not relaxed.
It's not relaxed. It's a physical act, man. It's a physical thing, and you have to do it so much that you become relaxed within your strength. Right. A good example is when you go to lift weights. You choose a weight and you start lifting like, oh, you're shaking like crazy. It doesn't have to be super heavy. You're shaking, then all of a sudden you're there a week later. You're like, oh, I'm controlling the weight. I guess I can move up. You move up to the next weight, you start shaking again. Right. It's that kind of thing. You get strong so you can be relaxed. You can be efficient.
So in the lessons with knowing that, because I study with you and you teach me a lot of the exercises that Merrick taught, but studying with Polo, was that more like was more doing the arias and he would coach you on the go like you said, closer.
You know what it was? It was so Arrigo Pola. I say this, and it really is true. Arrigo Pola is a descendant of the bel canto technique. He's part of that lineage. The tree, the bel canto tree starts with certain people and kind of branches off, and he's part of that lineage. He's a main branch. Ettore Campogalliani, who he worked with, one of the main branches within that stuff. you know, Leone Magera. These are all guys from Reggio Emilia and Modena. These guys are the stuff. So people talk about, oh, I use the bel canto technique. I learned at, you know, Blueberry University. Well, is that person part of this tree that I call, you know?
Right.
And that tree doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's why I searched you out, and that's how I found you. Like, it was the same, because I was
It's
searching,
the search.
who did Pavarotti study with? What were the exercises Pavarotti would use? What were the, and it was the search that led me to you. I thought you were bullshit, and I emailed you, and I was like, are you for real, or is this like, you know, is that just you were recording?
Yeah.
And then we got on Skype, and you weren't even going to accept me as a student. I remember you were just like, well, I don't know, I don't really like to do this to my, and I was like, please, just I gotta, and then as soon as you open your mouth, and it's there every time. I've never been with you either on Skype or in person and not heard it work. You know, waking up next to you in bed.
Hey, wait.
And,
Wait.
just hearing you get out of bed, you know, I sing a gig. Last night I sing a gig, 3-hour gig, whatever. I get up this morning. I have no falsetto in my voice because it warms up through the day. You get immediately up and you're a high B flat, beautiful, like, and you're not a falsetto and just beautiful. And it's like, and knowing you attain that too. You set your appoggio.
Appoggio, yeah.
Yeah, you set that. It's set, and then it can't. It doesn't elude you. Like your note won't elude you. Like it's going to be.
That is technique, though. That is what technique is supposed to give us, the ability to sing when we can't sing. You know, it gives us the ability to always be consistent.
And you're never flat. He's never sharp. It's like it's spot on all the time. Any live show that I've seen of you singing, there's no, you know, pitchiness.
I heard him last night. I
didn't know the words last night.
I know. You started the Journey tune with the total wrong. I almost stopped you and gave you the gong because I was going to fuck you.
Yes, okay.
But you kept going, so I was like,
yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, the guy in the front row got mad at me.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, you don't know the words. I sing in high note in his face, like, okay, fine, cool. I'm telling you, I don't know the words. I'm notorious for screwing up words. Anybody who knows me knows that's my
So being in the room with Paula, back to
okay,
Paula,
so
studying with Paula, how would he teach you? What would he say to you?
So here's the thing. So we have this lineage, right? We talked about this tree, right? You know, Burton Coffin was a singer himself. He could sing, and he was really a founder of a great vocal technique that was coming through Colorado. He was in Boulder, Colorado University, and he took great singers. He analyzed what they were doing and built this, you know, phonetic chart, these vowels, how they worked with the frequencies, right? And Dan was teaching me that because Dan had gone through. See, Dan,
right?
But you know, Dan was had a great voice, and then started studying with some of these guys, some of these gurus during that time, and he attributed all their what he called malarkey and BS to him having a short career. He said if I had just stayed doing what I was doing and working, my career would have been much longer. And he said, because of that, I really do attribute all that extra technique to making my career shorter than it was. Now, mind you, Dan Merrick was singing in the heyday of great tenors too. I mean, the people that were at the Met, Bergonzi,
Placido,
Domingo, Pavarotti, Nicolai Gedda, Jose Carreras. You know, before he got sick. I mean, it was just like a plethora of amazing singers. So the fact that he was working at the Met and singing and stuff is pretty friggin' amazing, because you look back to that day and there hasn't been that conglomeration of great tenors singing at the same time. It hasn't been since then. Anyhow, so I went to Paula looking for this magical technique. I thought, Paula's going to give me this. Forget it. I'm going to leave everything behind because I was a pompous kid, you know. Da-da-da-da-da. And Paula's like, no, sing O here. And just right in my head, it was like, I could hear Merrick go, yeah, I told you that for the last, 2.5 years. You know what I mean? And I go, oh yeah. And I'd sing that, and I could see exactly, you know, where in our exercises, where in this vocal chart that Burton Coffin put together, it was exactly the same. And I was like, oh. So, you know, and I went back to Merrick crying, because I was like, you know, I didn't doubt you because you were great to me. I'm sorry that somewhere in the back of me goes, I know what you were doing. I'm not an idiot. He goes, that's fine. You have to, this is the struggle. This, you know, he said, and this is the thing about Dan, is that he's like, always question me. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. Make me prove that, you know, make me prove to you that I know what I'm doing. Because that's how you learn. That's how we learn, you know?
Right.
So going to Paula was great because I knew what I was doing was right. I was hearing in Paula the same stuff I was hearing in Merrick, the same stuff I was hearing in Wussman. It was just nice to hear from the man who taught the man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was going on. So the exercises we were doing were really directly almost out of that book. You know, in the coffin book, yeah, you have let me get a piano here. So the Italians, I'm glad we ate that lunch right before this.
Yeah, no, it's good.
It's all coming up right now. So the Italians talk about aperto and chiuso, open and closed. And that's, you know, in my world is also upper register and mixed voice. Same thing. So like a Merrick exercise, a coffin exercise was, you know, if you sing this from U to O, oh, oh, you hear how that's collected.
Right.
Well, that's chiuso, that's closed.
Right.
That's exactly what happened. I did an exercise with Paula, and he's like, okay, let's go from U to O. Oh, I'm like, this exact same thing. And so, you know, the Merrick exercise was, you know, if you go up higher, was this, oh. And Paula's like, okay, let's start here and do an octave jump. Oh.
Same exercise.
Same as that.
Just different.
Just different notes. It was just to get me in the thing, you know. And then we would do stuff going from open to close. You know, a Paula exercise would be, this piano's so short you can't get a hold. So, was to sing open to the E, and then jump chiuso into the A. So,
Now hold on, I'd like to ask Bravo, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to ask Briano Bursquito.
Yes,
What was your name?
yes.
His name
Barry
Did that
Morgenstein.
Did that note just peel the paint off the walls?
Yeah, it's
And he's sitting down.
sitting
And
down.
I didn't hear him warm up today. He warmed up for like a minute before he got here. Like he was doing a couple ahs, whatever.
It's very loud,
It's freaky, right?
but there's no effort whatsoever
Yeah,
on his face, on his
right
neck.
on your face. But you said that the effort's coming from your point of
Yeah, Mylene from the
Your-
Borgia, for sure.
See, knows the way he says.
Borgia, but you see how that was
Yeah.
open and closed. And the one exercise that Pavarotti does, I don't know it exactly anymore, but that Paula did, which is actually yeah. So upper register, open, 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 do the passaggio chiuso, come back out, open. And so you work in those different, and that's what we did. And the thing that was great about Paula, besides his great, you know, just he was a great dude too. And he saw that I was like a young, freaked out tenor. And the more we worked, you know, I was supposed to have an hour lesson with him, and my first lesson with him was like an hour and 45 minutes or something. It took me like a while to kind of get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had someone coming for a lesson. He said, I'll see you later. Like, and they kind of left, you know. He said, just come back at 2 instead of, you know, 1:30, whatever it was, 2, right? And he said, come on, do it again. Let's do it again, do it. And he was singing too. And he was literally, you know, he was sitting with his legs crossed. No. Oh, no. No. Oh, what vowel? Yeah,
Paula
Paula.
was singing,
What
down.
vowel are you singing? What vowel are you singing? The vowels, oh, yeah, you sing, ah. So all you Americans, you come over here with these weird vowels. Oh, caro. Oh, you know, pew, whatever. Like, oh, I'd be like, oh, no. Oh, cues, oh. Just like sitting there, you know, with his belly, with his legs crossed. I'm like, this guy's nailing these F sharps just like Dan was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
So, you know, a lot of these singing teachers nowadays are talking about vowel modifications through the passaggio. And what's your view on that?
Well, that's what he's doing, but he's just going certain bells to build the voice. Like that's the exercise.
yeah, look at the way that the way that the Italians teach, the way that the bel canto method, you know, is used is that the vowel you sing, a vowel, puts you in, you know, the note you sing. I'm sorry, the vowel you sing on a certain pitch puts you in a certain register. So why are you modifying the vowel? It's not about that. If I want to sing,
So take a G and sing an U vowel, which would be vowel register, versus go to the O vowel, which would be mixed voice,
Yeah,
with
so-
the sound differences.
so-
you could hear it. It's definitely a different register.
Yeah, so if you sing ooh on a G, ooh, that's vowel register is what that's called, you know? And that's, if you need that sound, you want that sound, you're looking for that sound, that's the vowel you sing on that note. We don't, if we modify that vowel to try to make that sound, we'll never get into that sound. We will never get into that register. Same note, different register. Oh, different register, different sound.
More chesty.
It's mixed voice. If I was to sing it more
body, right?
Yeah, if I want to sing it open, I can sing an O vowel there. Ah!
Upper.
So, yeah, upper. So those are the 3 registers and 3 vowels to put you in that register on those 3 different registers on that note. And that's what the bel canto method is. They were listening for vowels and listening for registers. It's a sonambulistic way to teach. But you need to know what those vowels are. You need to know how to create that tone.
Did they ever mention the muscles when they were all these things?
No.
So you need to stretch your thyroid to get your TA to modify to the.
I didn't even think he knew what that stuff was.
None
of those guys did.
Never heard from Eric. Never heard from any of these guys.
Never told you to place it in your head way back and shoot it forward like.
Well, there are things that if it's too far back, it's too far back, but it always starts with the vowel. Look, if I sing this note, okay, let's say mixed voice, right, or Q zone Italian, right? If I sing an F sharp on O, right, it should put me in the mixed voice, right?
You're singing O.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Right, but if you sing it up,
wait, I was saying. So if that same thing goes too far back, well then I'd say it's fine. It's just too far back. We got to move it forward. That's how that works, but it's not.
And then also, if you say "oh," then it might end up in up, and it'll end up in upper. So it's not a really pure O. If you don't sing a pure O,
if you don't sing an O, there, it's oh.
It could become upper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then now you're shouting, or you're in that register.
And it's never in tune either. That's the thing, is your voice will never be in tune if you don't line up these overtones by singing the right notes. So that's what they were listening for. That's what they knew, just like Dan, just like Wussman, like myself now, what vowels, what registers, how to get you in that stuff, and how to keep that squillo going, keep that ring going.
Now, what is this? What is the squillo?
Squillo. Squillo is the ring or the buzz of the voice. Many people use different terms for it. The Italians use squillo. And the thing is, without, what squillo is, if you want to get a little, scientific of it, a scientific explanation of it, it's the lining up of the overtones. When our voice is buzzing, is squealing like that, then all the overtones are lined up. If it's not, and the placement is messed up, it's never going to be in tune because they're not lining up,
Right.
And the Italians believe, when you're singing on the stage, when you're singing on a real opera house, a few thousand people, and, a 90-piece orchestra, and you're on that stage, no microphone, what happens is the orchestra's playing and it creates what they call an orchestral wall. The sound comes straight up. If you ever look into a concert hall, always above an orchestral shell, orchestra pit, is this big chunk of wood, some sort of big round, acoustic, reflective surface, so it shoots the sound back out to the audience. It actually goes up and then shoots back. If you can actually analyze it, And when you're on the stage, you're like, forget about it. They're playing, and you're like, there's no way I'm going to pierce that wall. That wall of sound. The only way to have that is by have that squealo and have that just cut through.
That we always talk about that, the buzz.
Yeah. Right? So if you listen to this,
right, if you do one in and out, like one's good,
yeah.
one's
So
bad.
here. So I'll sing this. Hopefully you'll hear it, right, on this thing. So I'll sing. You can hear that. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the overtones lining up, and that's the squealo, and that's what cuts through that wall, and that's what fills a 3,000-seat house without a.
And if it's not there, if it's a little dull, it sounds.
Well, if it falls back at all. So I'm going to go from back to forward, and bring it in. Hopefully you can hear it on this thing. So. You hear that?
My whole body just vibrated when you changed that tone and pooped.
Well, here's the thing. You see that it has a visceral reaction to us. And the Italians believe that, and they always use their hands like this, so let's make like a snowball, or at least Pola and Luciano and stuff like that did, is that inherent in that squealo is the soul of the voice. And if we can get that there, that's how we can then touch people. That's what moves us. That's what gives us makes the hairs in the back of our neck stand up.
Right.
Is that squealo, and that's like, oh my god, that's like oh.
Now going to another, because I'm not gonna wrap this up just yet. I'm gonna go for like another 10 minutes, but I don't want to make it too long. So you studied with Paula. Then another point in your life, you ended up studying with another great tenor, and you told me his squealo was so loud you'd be like you'd have to turn your head, and that was
Johnny Raimondi. I wanted to go to Johnny Raimondi because when Pavarotti sang for a while and he ran into a little bit of trouble, he actually had nodes, and he was singing pretty heavily, and he wanted to go back to Pola and work, but Pola was gone. He was in Japan teaching and so forth. And so Johnny Raimondi is another person who had been part of this lineage. He had a huge career, huge monster career, sang at La Scala, sang everywhere. Whenever you saw, most of the time you saw Maria Callas singing, Johnny Raimondi was the tenor. But he was in his own right a huge star. And I wanted to go to him because Pavarotti went to him too, and I wanted to see what he was doing. I listened to his recordings, like, boop, it's the same thing. Like I played a recording today. There's this guy, these three guys who had studied and who had done.
They almost sound almost the same, except for a little bit of the tone of the voice.
The tone is just different, right?
But the vowels are exactly line up.
And so I had a friend of mine who was really more fluent in Italian than I was, get a hold of Maestro Raimondi and see if I could come for a lesson. He said, yeah, sure, have him come by. Drop Pola, try to drop as many names as I possibly could. I was like, sure. And I was living in Berlin, Germany with my wife, who's an amazing singer, way the hell better than me.
She always makes fun of you.
Hmm?
She always makes fun of you.
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's true. I
gotta hear her.
No, dude, you have no idea. Really, it's
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You think my squealo is loud, and you couldn't be in here with her. Right. It really takes your head off. It's amazing. She's amazing. Totally amazing. I mean, I really wouldn't be who I am as a singer if it wasn't for her help as well. Singing the press with her and going, no, that's not right. That doesn't sound good, dude. You know what I mean? And there was no holding back, I was like, oh, you got it. Keep working, honey.
Yeah, you should do one how you used to crack. Like
I used to crack like a high note. All the time. Yeah, those used to be my high notes.
I'd take one of those high notes like that right now. I know right now. So in Raimondi's squealo, you said it was just incredible.
Yeah, so I went to his, he picked me up at the train station in Bologna, and when I first met him, I started crying. I was crying all the time. I still cry all the time. Because it was another idol, he's like sitting there, he's like, hey, Alexander, I'm like, and I just started crying. He's like, what's the matter? I said, I'm just so happy. He goes, why are you crying?
Bitch.
He really was just like...
It would be like meeting Steve Perry, and Steve Perry saying, hey, I'm going to give you a voice lesson.
Yeah, it's the same kind of visceral, kind of like, oh my gosh, he's actually like looking at me, and we're going to go work. And we got into he had a huge Mercedes. It was the day after Easter. And we go and we start getting in this car, and I'm thinking, okay, it's like a couple of minutes away. It was like 25, 35 minutes away from the airport, going to these rolling hills of Bologna, which is, the town right near Modena, right? We get to his house, and he had a big barn that was a studio. And he was from the era, where you travel with your costumes, And so he walked into this barn, it was renovated, walls and stuff. And there were just like all his costumes on mannequins, like his Tosca costume. Like, oh my God, that's the thing he did with, I've seen like 1,000 videos of him. And here's Don Carlo, and here's Lucia. And I was like looking around, he goes, come on, this isn't costume time. Let's get to work. I'm just overwhelmed. There's like busts of presidents. It was just everywhere, Right. He sat down and he was smoking a little Toscanello, the little Italian cigar. He's like smoking it, and he puts it on the edge of the piano, and he goes, okay, let's start with the exercise. Oh! I was like, whoa! And I thought that someone had just like, shot me upside the head with this like amazing, the squeal was monster. I mean, when you hear him like on tape, you're like, oh, it's great. But live, it was just like, it was like a laser beam.
Well, it's kind of like I always say people with you, you know what I mean? When I met you on Skype, my thing would distort. All my lessons that I've recorded, you could hear my speakers, your microphone probably, clipping through my speakers going. Every time we would go do a note, we'd go, you'd hear the note, but you'd hear the... And then the first time I got in the room with him, just like when you got the first time, I said, watch this. And I watched everybody in the room. You watch everybody. It's one note, not even a high note. Just do like...
It doesn't even matter. It could be an F or a G.
Low, very low, and it just shakes the room. Where's that come? Your eyes look and go, I don't understand where that's coming from, because how can that be coming out of somebody? Because everything that I had been taught in the past was, well, you you shouldn't sing out loud. It should be contained and not very loud. And that's
so
how I say.
opposite of the Italians. Throw it to the back of the room. Hit the last row of the auditorium with your squeal. That squeal is hit them upside the head.
So that squeal. So then takes it to another question, maybe close to the last question, so we can have maybe one or two more. Talking about studying with you, and we practice like this, but then how does this bel canto operatic technique, which obviously I can't sing that when I'm singing Journey, and that's like that high, how does this branch over to singing pop and rock, which you do very amazingly job at?
So what it is so my technique, my theory behind this is that we work all these exercises, we work our voice as if we're going to be a classical singer. Now people will be like, oh my gosh, you're gonna make it all dark and that's not classical singing. That's the put on that people use for real classical singing. That's not what it is. That's not what pavarotti is. That's not Raimondi. That's not what it is. That's baloney. That's a caricature of operatic singing. That's not what it was. That's how it is now because everybody's like, open your throat, drop your voice, so you sound like Count Chocula when you're singing, Right. So we use that. So we use this technique. It's like ballet. If you want to talk about this earlier, it's about ballet. You use this technique like you would ballet. You do ballet to strengthen all these muscles in your body to get the isolation, like we do with the registers, or isolating a note, and we get our body nice and strong, and then we can take that strength, we can take that technique, and we move it to whatever style we want. We move it to lyrical dance or hip hop, or that's why my daughter's an amazing dancer. She's 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week of dance, and she's taken 4 ballet classes, so her hip hop can be better. You know what I mean? She's taken ballet, so her lyrical can be better. So she can have her legs stuck up in the air for 3 minutes while they're doing something else. That only comes from being at the bar, pointing your toe, and getting those muscles so strong that you can flex your foot and be lyrical.
Right.
But you can't just go to lyrical and do that. It's wrong, right?
Right. So this opera bel
canto.
canto.
So this bel canto technique. Then once your vowels are nice and strong like that, then the only thing I'm doing when I'm singing rock and roll is not giving the vowel as much resonance.
Right. It'd be more like the low end resonance, the low resonance.
No. The placement and everything's always the same.
Right.
It's that I don't give the vowel as much.
Depth,
much.
maybe?
No, it's just not as much resonance. I don't know how.
So
is it less volume?
Well, the volume will change a little bit because there isn't as much resonance in the vowel. So if I sing this G, quote unquote, operatic classically, right? So if I sing you can hear that, right? If I make this, if I'm going to sing a Journey tune, it's not going to be that. It's going to be You can hear the
change.
Change, right? Oh, there's 2 different vowels. It's probably doing the same vowel. So if I do it on right? If I do it classically, right? You can hear the change, right?
So, dude, the paint is falling off the wall. So I'm going to owe them a lot.
Can you hear that? You guys can hear the difference, right? How the vowel gets richer and more resonant, and I kind of just like pull off that vowel and I change it just a little bit so I don't give it as much.
But it still has more resonance than either you or I could ever possibly put on it.
But and when you strengthen, for instance, that's what I term the rock mix voice. It comes from getting that nice and strong. So if I'm singing like a B flat by doing
now is Birkenstein's face right now is he doesn't.
I want to cry. I really want to cry.
The real crybaby here is Birkenstein.
But the operatic one is got more of that depth, and is that more because it's a little bit closed, sort of.
In that moment, we're in mixed voice. It reopens back up because
we're at B flat, but it reopens through.
Well, we're in mixed voice. Yeah.
So we're in mixed voice. But then the rock one is just you're not really thinking that it's more of an open sound.
Yeah, but it's not as open as if I was just belting it out. Okay. It's still rock mixed voice. It makes
still
sense.
Got a little bit of it.
It has to, or else it would just be it would just be scream fest. It'd be I'd be taking upper register up and screaming. It's like, and I'm out.
Right. my mind. It's like, what the fuck?
So how high could you take like D high?
Well, see now here's the kicker is that if you want to sing any Journey songs and stuff like that, you don't sing it in mixed voice. You sing it in vowel register. We talked about that. We did that vowel register stuff before. So if I'm going to sing, what is it in lights? What is it? Is that it's in D?
Yeah.
So that's in vowel register. It's sad, right? It's sad. Oh, every morning's all on the road without you.
So that's not strengthened head voice, is what others would call. What is it? Oh, are you strengthening your head voice or your?
No, I'm singing in vowel register.
So you're on the voice. It's.
Oh hell yeah!
You're
That's what makes it very great. It wasn't. It's sad. Oh, there'll be mornings. I'm on the road.
Right. Yeah, I've tried that. It doesn't work.
It doesn't matter how loud you turn up the mic. It just doesn't have that. That's what made him great is that his vowel register was super strong and it had stones to it. Cojones. It had.
It had edge. It had some bite to it.
Yeah, it has to.
Okay.
Make any sense?
Yeah, it does. But
That
to me, it's just a very supported tone. It has nothing to do with,
It has to.
You're not singing there. You're just supporting that. You're not going,
No, he's not saying.
Even that's more supported. Go flip the falsetto. Flip the falsetto. Yeah, it's not that either.
It's definitely not that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's vowel register. That's the one you sing all that stuff in. That's where you sing the C sharps and the D. What is something that's a D in it? I don't even know. It's a D. Yeah.
My God.
Right. So it has that. It has to have that.
Now, did you ever?
From the French fries now.
One of the questions that came in. Said,
I'm glad we had fries right before this.
Totally. Did you ever? But that's what I mean. Like you never seem to have this any kind of issues because, and you always say it's because of
Appoggio. Yeah.
that you don't have any issues.
Here's the thing. So we haven't gone into the technique of appoggio, and it's hard to
well, this
talk
isn't a
about.
technique.
Yeah.
This is more of a discussion where you came from. I think more singers, more performers, more people that want to learn more about vocal technique need to know about you. I really do.
I appreciate that. But so here's how important the appoggio is. I was able to go backstage at A.B. Fisher Hall and meet Caro Bergonzi, right? Another famous tenor. And because of John Wussman. John Wussman was playing for him, so I got to hang out with him a little bit and so forth. And that was another great thing. Wussman took me everywhere with him,
Yeah,
and I had met Luciano and I got to hang out with him for quite a few days in chunks here and there. And I was the little Greek tenor, hey, my little Greek tenor's here. You're not going to attack me, right? We're not gonna... I said, I told you I'd get near you. He goes, yeah, I don't know how you did it. He said, security, the Greek tenor's around. It was a little joke. And he was doing his, I could tell you 100 stories, but one funny story was, what cool thing, I got to hang out with him when he was doing his Pavarotti International Vocal Competition. And it was like 4 days in New York at the Beacon Theater, and then a few days in Philadelphia for the finals. So the semifinals and the finals. And I sat right behind him, like literally right behind him. And his competition was people would come out and sing, and it wasn't just yes or no. He'd say, okay, you're doing a good job. Can you do this here, do that, do this here? And it was as if Paula or Merrick was just sitting there. And tenors would come out, and they start to sing, and he'd be like, oh, chiuso. Oh, aperto, no, chiuso. And I could hear him, and I'd be giggling, and he'd turn to me and he goes, you hear that? What's wrong? I said, yeah, maestro. Oh, there's two openings. We close it. There's no point. Exactly. You should be teaching this guy. And mind you, I couldn't sing like the guy that was on the stage.
Right,
he was way better than me,
Right.
But I knew. And he actually was be like, do this, do that, and the other. Greek tenor, Kariotis has it. How come you don't have it? You're 10 years older than him, Because Alex, get up there and show him. Like, no, it's okay. Because the guy was 10 years older than me, was like seriously way better than me. I couldn't do what he was doing. I'm not tooting my horn that way, but that was really cool because I was like with the guy.
Because you understood the concept.
Yeah, because I had studied with Merrick, because I had studied with Wussman, because I studied with Paul, and I hadn't studied with Raimondi at that time. And it was so great to be in that inner circle of knowledge.
Yeah.
I couldn't execute it, not all the time. I was like, 60%.
Was there a clicking point, like an aha moment, or was it just through practice and then it just got better, and now that's like you don't make mistakes. To me, you don't make mistakes. I'm sure in your own head, in your own practice world, you do. But now that's why you can just demonstrate the drop of a hat because it was because of practice, not because of a clicking point. Like, oh, I got it, boing. But the clicking point of the clicking point of that, I think, is what made it for you, right? That
Well, look, it's there's all the time saying you could teach arpeggio in 5 minutes. It takes a lifetime to learn, and it's the truth. It really is the truth. You're constantly monitoring. You're constantly looking. You're constantly. I mean, all the time.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the only way I got to where I am technically now was by sitting in a practice room and crying. Was to do it and go to Paula, go to Raimondi, go to Wisman, go to Mary, and do it. But I was given the tools to lead me on the right. I was on the right path. There's so many different quote unquote schools and so many different things going on, and people aren't proving to you by doing that they're on the right path. I'm not knocking anybody. God bless everybody who can make a living teaching singing. Really, it's it's a hard life. But I want to hear you. Here's the thing about these guys. From my brother to even Marietta Dean Weston, God bless her. John Woosman, he didn't sing, so he couldn't. He was a pianist coach. He wasn't really a singer, so he would say, "Hey, I'm not a technician. This is what Luciano does. Go back to Merrick, ask Paula." Right. I know Luciano sings it. Oh, here because John, does that sound like Odio? No, I know it's not. What am I doing? You know what I mean? And he was with him for 25, 30 years. And Bergonzi, same exact lineage, same thing. Bergonzi was older than Pavarotti.
When Bergonzi met you for the first time, what did he do to you?
So the first time I walked up, John's like, "Hey, this is Alex Kariotis, is a young tenor of mine." He goes, "Hey," and he hits me in the stomach, boom, really low. He goes, "Appoggio, si maestro, certo." He goes, "Okay, va bene." He goes, "He's a good singer." I didn't sing one note for the guy. But, he's like, "Good." He goes, "John," and he hits me like really hard, upside my stomach, the back of his hand. I'm like, "Oh." He goes, "Appoggio, si maestro." I understand. It was good. And he put his hand. He said, "Give me your hand." Put it down. He's like, "Oh!" You feel that? I'm like, "Yeah." He put his hand in my mouth. "Oh!" He goes, "Good." And I collapsed. I know. I'm just nervous. What are you nervous about? A poet breathing his life. You're either alive or you're dead. Okay, I'm alive, but I'm kind of freaked out. We're backstage here at Fisher Hall, And one of the greatest tenors in the world has his hand on my stomach. He's like, "Oh, man, you got it. Keep working."
That's it. There's no shortcuts. It's work that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See,
Look. If you're fat, I'm chunky right now. I have no problem. I got to work out. If you're fat and you want to get thin, eat right and work out, exercise. That's it. You have to put in the work. Now you can go to a guru guy who says, "You know what? If you just eat potato chips every day and do 4,000 sit-ups and buy my book on how to eat potato chips, you're going to be thin." Most you're not going to be thin. You're going to be a potato chip eating guy who's out of $80. Right.
That's the problem. Like, especially on YouTube these days, and a lot of it growing up for me as a singer was like, there's got to be a trick. There's got to be a shortcut. There's got to be, I'm not working my head voice enough. I'm not working, my chest voice enough. I'm not working the vocal fry. I'm not working, I'm not placing it high enough in my head. You know what I'm saying? There's all these different little things, and you get
crazy.
You get all over the place.
You never worked with a vocal fry, probably. You probably don't know what it is. Vocal fry.
I've never ever done it. I've done it one time.
Pharyngeal voice.
Someone asked me to do it once, and I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Or you ever blown any straws?
I don't blow straws.
You don't blow straws.
I mean,
you don't even do lip bubble much, just to work your approach a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't do the lip trill. It's an American thing. The lip trill is an American thing. They didn't do that in Italy. It's so funny. Is that everybody's like, look, the great Italian singers, they did this and that and the other. Lip trills was like the king of it. In my experience, never once with Paula, never once watching Luciano warm up, watching him sing, never once with Raimondi, never once with Wisman. We never did that. Now people will say, hey, we've evolved and so forth and so on. If we've evolved so much, how come our singers aren't as great as they are back then?
Right. Yeah. Even the rock singers today are not as good as they were 30 years ago.
Not even close. Why do we look back at those guys? What were they doing? They were, these guys were doing technique.
So when you would take lessons and stuff, was it a top-down approach or was it a from the bottom up approach?
It was all over approach.
So So you, depending on where your voice felt that day, is where you started.
Sometimes you'd start with falsetto, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you start here, start that.
Gotcha.
It depends. The voice is an ever-changing thing. The only constant is technique. Technique is what we latch on, we stand on to keep our voice working, no matter.
And with appoggio, you're leaning to blow air.
The whole idea behind appoggio isn't just to not collapse and keep this lean going, so you can, a lot of people talk, breathing is like when you're on the bathroom, when you're doing this. That's not. And here's the funny thing is that there's this book, Great Singers on Singing.
Yep.
And Luciano, and they asked Luciano, so is it like it is? Yes. It's like you're on the bathroom? Yeah. Is your throat open? Yeah, it has to be open. Well, first off, he didn't speak the language that at that time like we were speaking, and this idea of it being open was that it wasn't closed. This idea that it was going to the bathroom is that it was open, and the lean happens in the front, so you have that, those are the same muscles for urinating, not for defecating. Those are different. That's not what he's done.
Well, everyone took it as defecating.
Yeah, and that's not what it is at all. That's not what it is. So,
and
once again, and here's a really, really great thing I just thought of, is that, so Luciano said it in the book, it's like defecating. So then everybody's,
everyone's pooping.
But if you're with him, you're like, you go, what are you doing? Right. It's like this, and it just goes to show you that you have to be with someone who can do it, who can see what you're doing and go, whoa, no, you're doing this, here's how you do it. You're doing this, you go to play guitar, the guitar teacher sits across from you, you go, down, he goes, no, man, put your arm down. Your forearm's too tight, so you can get your wrist, you know what I mean? He doesn't go, I've read a lot of books about guitar, and that guitar right there, that string's vibrating 7,000 per seconds and so forth and so on, so yours isn't. Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Here's my $500 for the lesson. Goodbye.
Right. So, as we're going to start wrapping this up, any final thoughts, Birkenstein?
No, I mean, you just...
He's incognito. How come we're out there? So he can sue us, that's why.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts, anything?
No, I think you nailed it on the head right there. It's obviously you can read into things and get misinformation and apply things, all the time that just send you down the wrong path.
Singing, the art of singing. Why is the art of singing not written down? Because it was passed on from people to people. It was passed on from me to you, and you took it and passed it on to him. This technique, this bel canto technique, was passed on that way. Also, they didn't write it down because they were secretive about it. They didn't want people to know what was going on. Yeah. Now, does that mean you shouldn't study the anatomy? You shouldn't study the frequencies? You shouldn't study the speed of pitches and so on? No, you can study that all you want. Having that knowledge is great. Will it help you somehow? Possibly, maybe not. But it's not going to make that, in and of itself, will not give you... I have no idea of the speed of that thing or what's going on. I just know how to get to it from these guys going, and I go, back and forth.
And coming from you, it's, talking about leaning in appoggio, that's something that was very big in your learning. That's it.
That's one of them. That's one of the big pillars. One of them,
so that note, which is what? You cannot build it from it's not going to happen that way.
And then most of the schools that I came from, none of my teachers, not one I've had 20.
You're like you're a real lexicon of
and the one techniques. So maybe there was one teacher, very very famous teacher, that did speak of breathing. He taught me to tighten my abs like I was getting hit in the stomach every time I hit a high note.
Yeah, that's
exactly. So I had that going. Then I had the other teachers going. Singing has nothing to do with breath at all. It's to do with the squeeze of the vocal cords. And so that's where I came from.
So here's the thing: if it had nothing to do with it, then why was the most amazing scientific thing come out when they took vocal cords and put it on a rack and they blew air through it to see how they work? If that was the case, then we would just take anatomy would just be just the vocal cords, and they're not vibrating. So you can look at them all you want; they vibrate. With what? Air. Period. Air makes them move.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't know.
This is good. This is the first one, and it wasn't much on technique. It was actually. You get to hear a lot of technique in this, but I just want to help get Alex's name out there as a really great vocal coach. If you need to reach him, his email is what?
alexkariotis@gmail.com.
Spell your last name.
Kariotis.
Yes.
And so if you know, look him up on YouTube. You can find him in some of my videos. You can find other people are starting to post his videos. Look him up. He is by far the best. You know, technique wise, you're not going to find a better coach.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I stand by that 100%. Thank you, Birkenstock, Birkenyan.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's great to have you here.
Yes.
And if anyone could think of a good name for this podcast, it's not video. Eventually, maybe one day I'll make video once, but I'm going to have pictures up in a couple videos in between the talking.
Look, here's my parting shot to anybody who's studying. You know, you want to come study with me, fine, whatever. That's not the point of this. If you come away from anything from this, is question your teacher. You know, we're paying a ton of money for these lessons. You know, I paid
$150, $200.
Yeah, I paid a ton. Man, I paid gazillions of dollars for my lessons. You know what I mean? It's just the nature of the beast right now, right? So it's your lesson. Students sit there and a teacher says, you know, da 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 da, and in your head you're going, I have no idea what that sounds stupid, and you go, okay. Well, if your inner voice is saying, you know what, I don't understand that, you know, it sounds stupid to me, da, 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 say to the teacher, I don't understand that, it sounds stupid to me. You know, be respectful, like, you're stupid, it sounds stupid to me, I don't understand how to do it. Can you show me what I'm doing? Can you show me what I'm doing, and then show me the right way to do it? If that person you're with
can't do it,
my opinion, find someone who can.
To be honest, you're actually the only coach that ever did. That I called out on Skype and said, well, do it then. And you're like, what? That's nothing. And I was like, okay, this is where it needs to begin again. Here
Only because I was lucky enough to have those guys.
I'll be 49, and it was like only a few years back when this all started. And it was like, for the first time, I met a coach that actually, I call the bluff out, and he sings. That was amazing to me. So, thanks for being here.
Boring to me.
Well, thanks for being here. And this is, think of a name for this podcast. I don't know what we're going to call it. We'll think of something. Maybe Birkenstock, Birkenstein.
I think so. That would help.
So take care, everybody, and you'll be able to find it on yourvocalteacher.com. See ya. Peace.